Okay, next question. During your debut, you said you didn't really like your old job, but you were good at it. Can you tell us a bit more about that? What kept you sane back then? Currently in the same situation, wondering how to cope. So I can't talk about what my old job actually was, right? It's just not safe, right? So I can't tell you guys what I did at my old job or anything like that. I think a lot of people nowadays are getting underpaid for the work that they do. I think a lot of people nowadays are getting underpaid for the work that they do. So I think the advice that I give about like how to keep sane, how to cope, right? It might fall flat. That's what I'm worried about, right? That's what I'm really, really worried about. I won't tell you what I did, but I'll just tell you like right now. I was compensated pretty well for the job that I was doing. I was getting paid pretty decently. It's just it took up a lot of my time, right? It took up a lot of my time, but I was being paid pretty well. I think I was being, so the way that I coped was I just bought stuff, Like I would buy like fishing equipment or like bicycle. I bought like carbon fiber wheels for my bicycle, I bought carbon fiber wheels for my bicycle and it's like, okay, I can work another day, right? I think it's bad. I think it's just a really bad way to deal with the crappy situation, Because it doesn't actually make you happy. It doesn't, I don't think buying things actually makes you happy. It just kind of distracts you for a little bit, right? Like a little shiny trinket that you can look at and touch, right? So it's not something that I would recommend long term. This is just advice. And I might be completely wrong. I think the trick to dealing with life, the trick to being happy, I think, is to have a creative outlet, right? I think a lot of the unhappiness that I dealt with earlier in my life is just because I did not have a creative outlet. A hobby is different. All right, so like I've always been into like sports and outdoorsy stuff and like fishing. I don't think fishing is a creative outlet, right? I don't think bicycling is I don't think like playing basketball, I don't think that's a creative outlet, And those are important too. You should definitely have like physical exercise to keep your body in shape, but the act of creation itself is incredibly fulfilling. It's fulfilling in a way that nothing else can fit. And like, this is why I would recommend cooking. Cooking, I think, is a creative outlet because you're creating something. You're creating food, right? Like, I made this. The act of making something makes you feel like you have power in your life in a way that nothing else will give you, right? No amount of money will give you the feeling of like, I made this. With like, this is something that I made. It exists. I willed it into existence, right? And it's a really like important thing to being happy, I think. And buying things is not going to give you that. Yeah. So I think if I could go back in time and help myself cope better, it would be like, hey, like maybe you should stop buying carbon fiber bicycle parts and maybe you should try drawing. Maybe you should start cooking a bit more. Maybe you should, pick up like a creative outlet. Yeah. And I think I'm really thankful to VTubing and Holostars because that's my creative outlet, right? And that's why when I say that VTubing makes me really happy, Holostars makes me really happy, that's what I'm talking about. It's not just the fact that, it's Holostars, like it's the dream group to be a part of, right? It's the creative outlet of my life, This is it. This is the creative outlet that I want to do for the rest of my life, which is why it makes me so happy. Yeah. Yeah, so I guess that's the advice that I would give. What kept me sane back then? I thought it was the bicycle parts, but it was probably in hindsight the cooking. Especially because, unnamed things went down in 2020. Unnamed things went down in 2020, and then I just started cooking more at home. And that probably helped me deal with the grind of like an 8 to 5 job, more like an 8 to 10 8 to 10 jobs sometimes. Yeah.